Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of El Koki Otaku. Today with us, we have a very special guest. He voices Guel Jeturk in Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. One of my personal favorite animes, but we're gonna move on. He also voices Hikage Shinomori in My Hero Academia, Akemitsu Akagami in TenPuru. He also voices Kyle Osment in The Legendary Hero is Dead, Kouichiro, Ohta in Gunbuster, sorry.
Good.
And Jubei? Are you? You gotta correct me in that one.
Jubei, it's okay.
Jubei are you in Blue Lock, and Kisho Yamada Asaemon in Hell's Paradise. So please give it up for Bradley Gareth.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks to you for joining us tonight, which is an honor with such great lineup of voice acting experience in the anime world, and many anime that are being trend, especially with the latest lineup, summer 2023.
Yep.
Yeah, we're about to start fall.
Yeah. We're about to start the fall season.
Time's flying so fast. Like I can't believe
That's
already.
the reason why we changed our colors.
We should. But
Yeah, very fall festive there.
We try to, because it's about to get cold. So let's try to get with a warm color before the cold hits.
That makes sense.
Well, speaking about heartwarming series, one of your latest work, TenPuru, No One Can Live on a Loneliness with Akemitsu Akagami.
That's right.
It's for those who haven't seen this series, how would you describe it?
Not a show to watch with the family, is how I begin. So, TenPuru, for those unfamiliar, is a show about a guy who, his dad, is single dad because he doesn't know who his mom is, because his dad is like he's a womanizer, he's a philanderer. And then whenever he's about like, I think it's implied he's like 6, maybe 7 years old, his dad looks at him and goes, I'm gonna go try to sleep with as many women as I can, and just abandons him to like take care of himself. So he grows up being like, I don't want anything to do with like womanizing. I just want to live like a really respectable, like on the beaten path life. Then he meets a girl who he immediately falls in love with. Starts like failing at school just because he's like, screw it, I won't even bother with the the just path. And this scares him so badly that he completely drops out of school, drops out of society, and decides, I'm going to become a monk. Unfortunately for him, that girl is at the temple where he's trying to become a monk, and that temple also happens to be inhabited by 6 women and 6 women alone. Also, unfortunately for him, he realizes his dad, the one who abandoned him, stole $200,000 from them approximately. And he owes all that money, so he's going to have to work there in perpetuity to pay that off. And shenanigans ensue. It's a harem comedy series. There's a lot of female anatomy on full display. Occasionally his male anatomy as well. So, yeah, a lot of the comedy comes from that. It can be heartwarming. It is often very, very silly.
And it killed me a memory when you said in the background Akemitsu that when he was a kid, he was so proud of that living to be with someone here, like, yeah, dad, go for it.
Because he's like, yeah, I love, because his dad frames it to him as, you like having friends, right, Akemitsu? And then he's like, yeah, of course. And he's like, I'm going to go make friends with like every woman I can. And it's like, that's not what's happening, but that's certainly a way to frame it to your kid.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the anime where the dad like grabs him and throws him like off the cliff into the water, or like puts him in the barrel into the water? No. Okay.
You're
That's
confusing.
my recollection.
You're confusing. Damn it!
It sounds like Tekken with dropping him off the cliff.
I reincarnate in a godless world.
Oh yeah. That's
Okay.
Kamikatsu. Yeah. Where he like sacrifices him. Yeah.
No, but this is the anime, Kira, where you saw that.
I know. I know. This anime is for sure, like Bradley said, full women anatomy, full men anatomy. Like, oh my god.
And I have to confess,
they walk a very fine line. I gotta say, they walk a very fine line between ecchi and anime. I'm not gonna say the name. Anime H. Anime.
It never gets to that point. I mean, one thing I really love about Akemitsu is he is very much like, I don't want that. I don't, like, all these women could be like, I'll end up in all these situations where like I fall over these women or like they fall over me, and he, like, the minute that he is on top of a woman by accident, naked, he goes to the police and tries to turn himself in because he's like, I deserve to be in jail forever. So like, he's very much like, I don't want that, which I really appreciate about him.
Which is a very ethical character in this scenario, and damn, even though he's ethical, sometimes we need the bar for review. Like, wait, is this still ecchi, or we like crossing the line? And we're all looking at it, like, it looks like it's still ecchi, but damn, we're just like this close for making age anime.
There are so many comments that I've seen online where they're just like, he could just say yes. He could just say yes and probably sleep with like any of these women. And it's like, no, that defeats the point of the show. He does not want to. A lot of the time, they're also like, the only reason these situations happen is some misunderstanding. So he's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to cause problems. I just want to work here.
Leave him alone in his celibacy.
Yeah, exactly.
On.
Which is kind of funny that he's trying to stay like in the path of the monk, but dude, the scenario is perfect for him to get away of that path. So what do you like more about your character from Akemitsu?
I think I love about him that he is so like, I mean, I'll just very, very quickly say I did not have the best relationship with my dad, so I'm like, I get it. It's tough whenever you see like parts of yourself that remind you of that, and I think like running full sprint in the opposite direction makes perfect sense to me. I think that it's good that like, what I really love about Akemitsu is that he is someone that really means to do well and tries to be like as empathetic and understanding as possible with other people. Maybe he'd have this with other dudes, I don't know. He doesn't talk to any outside of like two random dudes in the first episode and one priest in episode like 4. But by and large, he tries to be like as kind and conscientious and nice as humanly possible to like everyone he meets, basically. So I really appreciate that about him, that even if he's trying to be like, it's not just about like, I want to be celibate. It's also, I don't want to be like a selfish scumbag. Like, I genuinely really want to be a good person. And what's at the core of his enjoyment of all the people at the temple isn't that like they're hot, because I mean he is aware of that. He's not saying like these people are not attractive, but the core of it is that he like really respects and likes them because they're really kind, nice people as well, and he admires that about them, and it sort of brings out goodness in him and in them. It is kind of wholesome, and I really appreciate that about it.
We can say one of the biggest lessons here, like, you're single but you're trying to be with somebody, just don't work, just be a nice person and life will bring you a nice person into, because he's not behind anybody here. He's just being a nice person, that's it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
all girls are falling for him by accident just because he's just a nice person that doesn't want to leave the shadow of his father, that the temple now is in ruins because his father is living the vida loca like never before.
Yeah.
So it is a nice comedy, not for family, just for
just
18 plus.
Still not a family show, but it is ultimately, like, I would say it's not mean spirited. None of these women ever feel like, I would say, victimized, and I really appreciate that about it. I think that's really sweet. I really enjoy that.
Definitely.
After Dark.
But talking about After Dark, one of the character in one of Kiara's favorite series, which we saw him battling.
Nope. I will introduce that one.
You got it.
I'm going to talk about none other than the guy who keeps losing at every single turn, except maybe one duel. Every single other duel he lost.
Yep.
And I'm talking about none other than Guel Jeturk in Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury, which, my God, we got to talk about. One, I never get tired of the intro. The intro and the outro. Sorry, the outro. It's both of them, but the ending song is just so good. But then we
Yeah,
also
yeah.
have Guel, who, you know what? I'm gonna leave it to you, Bradley. How would you describe Guel and then like the whole Mobile Suit Gundam, the Witch from Mercury series?
Okay, yeah. This is very funny coming off of Akemitsu, where it's a guy who has problems with his dad and lands a bunch of women. Guel has a bunch of problems with his dad, lands no one.
Exactly.
For real.
Point of fact, shut down very hard.
Yeah.
So, Mobile Suit Gundam Witch from Mercury is, of course, another entry in the Gundam series. It's self-contained. It seems like it's not connected to, like, Universal Century or any of the other Gundam series. It's very much its own show. You know, it's a story of people on a lot of, you know, the more wealthy people in the world have moved out into the solar system. They're living in space. A lot of the poor people still live on Earth. There's a big scientific debate about whether or not, you know, we should use, like, you know, basically cyborg augmentations to make humans a little bit more capable of, like, space travel and not, like, deal with the harshness of it. This is also true of, like, therapeutic reasons and all that. So, like, they call that the Gund format, which is also, like, how Gundams work in the universe, because there's the big robots, which are not Gundams, which it's just, you know, you pilot it like a tank, whereas the Gundams are ones where, like, you have to plug in, like, your whole nervous system into it, and then that can kill you due to the feedback loop. And that is used as a justification at the beginning of the series to be why they, like, outlaw all Gundams, which is why the protagonist's mother decides, like, all right, I'm gonna get revenge because she was working on these to try to, like, you know, make the world a better place, to make, like, cyborg implants and things like that work. So that it's all this sort of revenge story of, like, you know, the government is trying to, like, you know, get rid of all this Gundam stuff. She's trying to Suletta, the protagonist's mother, is trying to basically get it back, and also get back at all the people that you know, sort of ruined her life because her husband got killed. And in the midst is, of course, a very you know, not speaking for Bandai Namco or Crunchyroll or anything like that, just my view, it seems very apparent that it's, like, you know, a very clear story of the children of these two opposing factions, the head of the government and this scientist, Suletta and Miorine, being in love, and they deal with that over the course of the series as, like, star-crossed lovers. My guy is engaged to Miorine, who's, like, the daughter of the head of the government, because my dad wants to be the head of the government. He arranged that, and I only get to keep that title so long as I win, and boy do I lose at the end of the first episode. And then Guel, from a lot of pressure from his dad, just sort of keeps losing for the rest of the show in various, like, tangible and emotional ways. And I don't want to spoil the end of the show for people who haven't watched it, but, like,
spoil.
You know,
People like spoilers. We realize people like spoilers. To this
You can
day,
skip
it's kind of weird.
if you don't want to listen to the spoiler.
yeah, you can skip this part if you don't want to listen to the spoiler. Well,
It's been released months ago, so yeah, go for it.
Unlike Akemitsu, who will probably never see his dad again, Guel definitely resolves that whole dad problem by accidentally killing him. So that doesn't go great for his mental health. And then for the rest of the show, he's sort of traumatized by that, trying to, like, pick up the pieces of the company after getting, like, abducted and having, like, a kid, like, die in his arms as well. Things do not go well for Guel. And then, you know, he's like, all right, you know, because the main character was nice to me and said nice things to me, I kind of have a crush on her. Asks her out in the second season in a really genuine way. Gets shut down again after proposing in the first season. It's just like, all right, man, sure. And then he ends the series just trying to live up to his dad's expectations. Almost gets murdered by his brother because of a family misunderstanding. Only gets stopped by, like, basically a family friend going, you guys are so dumb. So he ends the series just like, man, I guess I'm trying to run this company and not be, you know, an asshole. So that's the story of Guel Jeturk, the guy that loses and just tries his best.
So I gotta say, little parenthesis here, I gotta say, if TenPuru was not for kids because it's ecchi and has sexual themes, Mobile Suit Gundam The Witch from Mercury, I'm gonna say it's not for kids because of the violence that it has and the blood and the killing.
Yeah, I'd agree with
No, I
that.
gotta say, there were a couple of scenes that I was like, oh, they showed everything. I was impressed.
Yeah, no, definitely, without question. There's a bunch of that in Gundam as well. Even just episode 0 to start it all, like they execute like everybody on that space station. So it's like, yeah, no, I also would not call these family friendly.
Yeah, very graphic.
For me, it was a wild ride, which I really enjoyed, because when we see past Mobile Suit series, like you mentioned, usually are guy centralized, and I think this is the first time that they're aiming for a not only guy audience. And in this case, we start with the episode 0, which is like, okay, let's remember from the old Gundam suit. But suddenly we go to what happened, go to the first course, and when we had that episode when Suleta, she smashed that person that was bloody as hell, that was the moment where like, oh, whoa. We thought it was going to be like a child learning to be pilot. This went down very dark in seconds. And from there...
Yeah. I really love that. Yeah, it's super neat. And it hits you like a freight train, especially like, they basically... I mean, the second season has more or less like a school shooting with like the mech pilots, the Gundam pilots from Earth coming in and doing like a terrorist attack. It's a lot. The show is very complicated. I also will also toss out, because I mean it's worth tossing out. The plot, the layout of the show is sort of also aping and referencing a Revolutionary Girl Lieutenant, which is like a much older anime from like the 90s, where what is it? Suleta is basically the Rose Duelist, as Utena is in that show, and my character is basically the Sionji figure. But like, they sort of, for those who are familiar with Utena, like Sionji is like, I would say Guel is like Sionji if Sionji also happened to get like, I'm trying to remember the class president, Kiryu. He's basically Sionji if he got Kiryu's like really sympathetic backstory and then got to have like that progression of slowly becoming a good guy, which Kiryu kind of does, depending on the version, because there's also the movie. But Sionji doesn't really get that turn. He just ends up being a loser who does also live in the woods by the end of the show. Like,
oh god,
Guel being kicked out of the school and camping in the woods is straight up something that happens to Sionji, which I found very, very funny.
I don't know if this happened to you, but when I saw that first episode 0, the rationale why they banned the Gundam that you just mentioned, it wasn't not ethical to have like, it is right to people kill people, but not the machine kill the people. And even that is sci-fi, I was like, damn it, I know this is sci-fi. This is not true, but I can see this political speech happening anywhere. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense that they'd like outlaw the technology that because it's like, I mean, very strong chance in all the Gundams that like basically everyone who pilots one except for Suleta in the series like basically dies or is so severely injured by the experience that like they need years of like therapy in the way that Guel's brother does by the end of the series, just from piloting it once.
For real.
He almost dies. So it's like, yeah, no, it does make sense why they're like, we should. Restrictions, I think, make sense at least. Definitely not murdering everyone involved with the project, but the restrictions make sense. A little bit of regulation.
Even though, I mean, now this is very personal opinion. For me, the speech was like BS. I just wanted to get it out of the competition, but you need to do a saint move so you don't look like you're just trying to take the rival. So.
Oh yeah. I think Miorine's dad is like a. Well, you get the sense by the end of the series that Rembrandt, like her dad, I'm forgetting his first name right now, but her dad, but yeah, President Rembrandt is really, really trying to also seize power. Because I mean, this is also what happens. Like it's a sort of classic situation where I think before that there was a more civilian government. And then he was a military guy, like explicitly they said he was a military guy, so he also kind of wanted to just seize power for the sake of seizing power because he figured that was best. So it's like, it's this interesting layer of like, this dude's also kind of like a fascist sort of thing where it's this like corporate backed thing too, where like the show is playing with a lot of different themes about like the type of people that seize power and want it and how they use it and how they exert it to basically solve petty personal grudges. And honestly, it does seem like killing all the people involved with the Gundams and sort of declaring the state of emergency was a means for him to gain power. It's sort of like we have political enemies that we are sort of redirecting all the hate onto, which happens many times in our history. So that does tend to happen when an authoritarian takes power. They usually have like a group of people they blame for all the problems.
Definitely. That's why we say, anime sometimes is fantasy, but sometimes they love to mix reality very often.
Yeah, absolutely.
But staying in the dark path with very dark anime. One of the latest one from summer, no, it was a spring 2023, Hell's Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
Where we had the character of Kisho Yamada, Asaemon. So, for those who haven't seen Hell Paradise yet, how would you describe that series and how? Yeah, let's go with the series first. How would you describe the series?
Okay, yeah, I would say like think of it as when you look at it as a whole, it's kind of like an action movie, right? Like it's a movie where like there's this island that has all these that's supposed to have like the secret of eternal life on it. And the Emperor of Japan, or not the Emperor, the Shogun of Japan, because it's like, during the Shogunate period, is like, I would love to be immortal. I need to get that elixir of immortality. So I'm going to send soldiers to do that. Well, the soldiers all end up dead. So he's like, all right, what's an expendable group of people that I can send to go get this elixir of eternal life for me? And he's like, oh yeah, all these prisoners. All these like terrible prisoners. And then they grab like, they basically throw them all in one area, and they're like, all right, whoever among you can kill like all the other ones here until we've reached about like, I think it's like 15 or something like that, 12. Whoever can do that, you guys get to go to the island. The rest of you will die. So then they send those prisoners there, and it's like, all right, it's a race for the prisoners to try to find the elixir of immortality. Some of them work together, some of them don't. They also send basically like their police escorts, more or less. They're executioners who are like, the minute that you try to leave the island or like you try to betray the shogun, they're like, our job is to kill you right there on the spot. And yeah, it's a very fun show. It's really messed up because like there's a lot of body horror that the island does to you because it's inhabited by like monsters and like these I don't want to spoil this one because it's like brand new, but like there's the Tenzen, who are like the sort of lords of the island who have like these like terrible magical powers. And yeah, it's all these prisoners dealing with that along with their executioners, some of whom, they work together, some of them don't. My guy is I guess I could spoil there's a reason my guy is not on the cover of anything. Because my guy's there to look at the main characters, who are Gabimaru the Hollow and Sagiri. Gabimaru the Hollow being like the best ninja that they could grab, and Sagiri being the executioner assigned to him. Kisho, my guy, my assigned prisoner Keiyun gets like almost immediately killed by Gabimaru. So I'm like, all right, I'm peacing out. I'm just here to tell you guys, things are gonna get real bad. And you would be smart to leave, Sagiri. It'd be great if this guy dies. The sooner this guy dies, you get to go home, because this is going to be terrible. And then I walk out of that scene, and then the next time you see me, I'm dying and I'm dead. I've already been caught on a boat, and I'm dead. So it's brutal. It's a very brutal show.
A spoiler: there's no way to escape from the island so far.
Yes.
But something that really caught my attention.
Things happen.
Oh wow!
The whole manga's out, so like you can do that.
Damn. Okay, but Kisho. So correct me if I'm wrong. This character, do you feel any challenge dubbing this character? Just because when I see your lineup of character, they have their own very similar personality. But correct me if I'm wrong. Kisho's like a little bit low key character. So for you, was that a challenge or that was an easy character to dub?
So, I mean, I have the benefit, thankfully, of like, before I did anime, I did indie games for like 10 years, something like that. So, by the time I got, like, the first character I ever played was in a game called Seduce. I played a character called James. It's not pornographic. It sounds like it, but it isn't. But, James was very even-keeled. It was at this very, even-ended, very logical, very thoughtful, very kind. He's, like, kind of nerdy. He wears these glasses. He's always sort of like the mother hen of, like, his group of brothers, where he's like, I can't have these people acting up and causing problems. And Kisho and like Kisho is sort of that, but like with a little bit more like, I don't care about literally anything. I just want to go home. It's that he is very much a guy who's clocking into work and just wants to go home. So it was fun portraying a guy that very much is just like, look, I know that there's this whole action movie thing going on. I got to sign this job. I didn't want to do it, but the government said they'd kill me if I didn't take it. So it's great my guy died. I'm going to leave now as soon as possible. Like, my character says, I'm going to go home and take a bath because, like, I hated this whole experience. It was really fun to sort of get into that mindset. And it's kind of relaxing to be like, none of my lines are screaming, and it's kind of up here in my nose, and he's just sort of like, I'm tired. I don't want to be here. You guys are stupid. I don't know why you're so excited to be here. And it's a lot of fun. Kisho is a lot of fun to voice. I have played characters like him before, just not an anime, but so it was fun to like play an anime character that's just so dumb with everything.
Now that you're speaking about your voice, because you have a very, I wish I had your voice. You have a very deep voice, very eloquent. So, how do you land up in the anime voice? So you just knew from the beginning, I have this voice going to make the best of it, or how do you land up in the voice acting career?
Okay, yeah. I mean, so what happened was I did like children's theater when I was a little kid, like, school plays, right? Like, I wasn't like on Broadway. I was at like my Catholic school where there were like 20 people in the audience and they were all the parents of the kids. So we did like little plays there, and then I had done a couple of those. I remember my first big acting choice was because all the plays were also written by the principal, because I guess, I don't know, she probably wanted to be a playwright and that didn't work out, so she became the principal. So it was this play about like a Russian shoemaker who meets like Jesus at the end, because it's a Catholic play. And I remember I was like, all right, so Jesus is gonna have a British accent, because I was Jesus, and I was like, no, I insist that this is the case in this Russian play, that Jesus has a British accent. Which, I'm 7 years old, I can't really do it that well, but I was like, yes, this is acting. So then I do little bits of that in like community theater for the next few years, and then I get to about high school. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm bouncing between being like a psychiatrist because I figured I needed therapy, or like being like a composer because I had studied music for so long, because I had played piano for so long too. So then I found out about like voice acting, because like to me voice acting was like movie acting kind of, right? Like, my thought at the time was, because my brother had also like done the theater side of things more. Like, he was older and he had gone to college for theater. I was like, well, I'm not like a super muscular guy. I'm not like, this chiseled like Chris Pratt, and Chris Hemsworth, any of the like Marvel star looking guy. The best I could probably do in like movies, I remember there was a film called in like the 2000s, I think it was called Sex Drive. The guy I think was also in Hot Tub Time Machine, which was also a movie in the 2000s. There's this nerdy looking guy with glasses, and I was like, if I was in movies, they'd only let me play that guy forever if they let me play a main character at all. So I was like, movies isn't gonna work. So my assumption was you also had to be famous to make that work in voiceover. I was like, well, I had seen like glimpses of like Chris Sabat and Sean Schemmel on like Dragon Ball Z VHS tapes in like the 5-second clips they'd have at the beginning of them. And I was like, oh, those guys must be famous. And it wasn't until I was about 16 years old that I realized, oh, those are just normal guys. They were like, they had been in bands and they just sort of answered an ad in the newspaper. And I was like, maybe I could do this. So I looked more into it, and then I thought about it for a while, and I was like, I want to do this. And that was about in 2011. And I was like, well, how do I do this? And I figured out at the time, because I would watch like a bunch of like convention footage of like the actors talking about it, and they were like, move down to Dallas. And I'm like, I live in Pennsylvania. That'd be really hard. So I was like, okay, well, how do I do that? Well, I need to graduate high school first. And then I thought about going to college in Dallas, and thank goodness I didn't do that, because it was a lot cheaper to go to college in Pennsylvania. I was like, I'll save up. I'll basically do all the stuff I can on the indie side, because there was a bunch of indie projects available online. And then I'll go to college, get like a job that will pay for me to like live, because even when I was 16 or 17, I heard horror stories of people that would be like, yeah, I'm 18 years old, I don't know anyone, and I'm gonna move down to Dallas, and they'd like live in like their car and be like, any one of these days I'm gonna be able to be in anime. And they just couch surf with like anyone they could meet, and it's like they probably have to move back home at some point, which I've seen some people do. I have had to help some people like move out of Dallas because they came down here and they did not have the connections, and it's tough. It's a tough industry to break into. If you come down here without a plan, it's not going to go great. So I went to college, tried to like figure out a job that would make like not like I'm gonna be like at a hospital like 18 hours a day, you know, as a nurse, but like money enough that it could give me a job. So I figured that out. Got like a series of after like not being employed and living on my mom's couch for like several months after college, because I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. I figured out you know, getting a job that could cover me. And then I was like, okay, time to move. You know, we visited Dallas. I was like, I've saved up enough money to like survive in case the absolute worst thing happens. I can't get like any voiceover jobs, and I can't get another day job. Like if my day job fires me and then I can't find anything else, I was like, okay, I have enough that we can make it work for a little bit, just a little bit. And went down to check out Dallas. I was like, this is great. I can't wait to move down later this year. That was in February of 2020. So the move did not happen that year. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? I'm trapped, you know, we're trapped in our house. It's the lockdown. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I end up starting, because I'm like, well, I have this money saved up for like the move, and I guess I'll save up more because like I still get to keep my job because I still live here. So I saved up and took a bunch of classes, which really, really helped. I took classes with, and you know, I looked for people that like had been doing this stuff. Like in 2020, I took classes with like Sonny Strait, with like Chris Rager, you know, all these like big names of people that I really respected, and it really helped. Those helped with like my acting, which I was like, I had done like little bits of theater like class stuff at the end of high school. But it was very, very limited. Like actual formal acting training really, really helped. So that assisted greatly, and then that also opened doors where I started meeting people and like connecting with other students, and that really helped because once I did move down, then I knew more people from like that side of things, and over the course of a few months, I managed to through classes, networking, other jobs I had done on the indie side, like. A friend had recommended me to like the roster to audition for like Death Battle, and through Death Battle, that's how I got into Sound Cadence Studio, because they had been responsible for Death Battle at the time for casting it, and you know that they also auditioned out a movie. It's called Dinosaur World. It's like a Chinese live action movie that's sort of like, what if Jurassic Park was also like an MMO? It's a wild film. Anyway, like I auditioned, I land like just a bit part, and then when I'm in, I finish the bit part early, and they're like, here, say our congrats to you, and do you want to be like in an anime? And I'm like, yes, I would love to be in an anime as like a random extra. So I was part of a crowd of people that got to say like, our congrats to you, and that was episode 1 of Kageki Shoujo, and that was the first time I got to do anime. So then after that, a few months later, got more anime opportunities, and it's been just on a roll from there.
Damn, that's how,
honestly.
that's a journey. Like you can make a book from that journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, because the nigga, you went like from college, all those, even that it's not just like your story. Many students, people go through that chain of question. What are you going to do here? What are you going to do there? And of course, every case is a unique case. Nobody can compare with somebody else. That's a big, on my feeling, lesson learned. Never compare yourself to nobody. Even you can use as a reference what you do, how to embrace situation, but never compare yourself. You're doing better or worse to somebody, because everybody have a unique scenario, background story, and trust me, there's no way to replicate that changes event on somebody's life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll admit I was rough on myself when I was up in Pennsylvania, because like the first game I was in that I referenced before, Seduce Me, that had like Alejandro Saab, it had like Jonah Scott, it had Zach Aguilar. So I had these colleagues that had been like, they lived in sort of the hub cities. Like Alejandro moved to Dallas in about like 2014, 2015, started like doing stuff for Funimation at the time then, right there. And then Jonah, I think, was living in California by, I think at the latest like 2017, 2018, and I was just like, man, I can't do anything up here in Pennsylvania. But it's like, that's how it is, man. Like there are limitations on what you can do based on your situation, and that's okay. Like I eventually had to just sort of make peace with it and go, it's gonna happen, just Just got to keep working and then figure it out. So I tell anyone out there that's looking to do this that's kind of disheartened. One, there's more remote opportunities now thanks to the lockdown. Like, it's a lot easier now than it was in the 2010s. I can tell you that. And two, just keep trying. It's always worth trying. Be strategic about it. Do your research, because there is a way to be more solid in planning for this sort of job. But I would always say, like, it's gonna take time. It's okay for it to take time. Just do it as best you can.
Definitely. Moving back to anime world, one of your series, Gunbuster, Aim for the Top, into the character of Kouichiro, Coach Ohta. So, help me here. What is this series anime about?
Sure, yeah, Gunbuster. So, for anyone unfamiliar, do you know what Studio Gainax is?
Not yet.
Okay, so Studio Gainax was the anime studio. I think it no longer exists. They were the ones that made Evangelion. They also made Nadia Secret of the Blue Water. They made Panty and Stocking. I think technically they were the ones that made Gurren Lagann. And they made Fooly Cooly. So a bunch of really, really good, really, really cool shows. So to get into what Gunbuster is, you have to understand that that's the studio that made it. This was their premiere project. This was the first big thing they made that was not a convention promotional video. It was made by the director of Evangelion. It was made by Hideaki Anno, and this was his pet project to make. And you can see a lot of references to older anime, and that there's some space battleship Yamato to it. There's, I think, a little bit of Gundam and Ideon to its story. But in essence, what Gunbuster is a story of Earth gets invaded by aliens. There's an alien invasion that's approaching the Earth. So humanity builds a bunch of robots to go and fight the aliens. Kind of like Evangelion. But unlike Evangelion, the battles take place primarily in space. And the mechs are piloted just by whatever soldiers they can muster. It's not you need to be it's not like Evangelion where the I'm gonna spoil Evangelion. The robot does not have to be your mom. They're just mass production robots.
How do you spoil Evangelion? It was released more than 20 years ago.
Some people, I had to explain to my fiance in 2020 what happens to Aerith in Final Fantasy VII. So sometimes people just don't know. I just want to be clear. But yeah, and it's about this girl named Noriko who her dad was a spaceship captain that was fighting the aliens, and he died in space. So she's I want to go up in space and confirm that that's the case. So I want to become a pilot for these mechs. And my character was a lieutenant on her dad's ship. So I feel basically after that happens, I'm both dying of basically a space cancer from that event, and then also I'm hell bent on killing all of the aliens I can, because I'm this is the only reason I'm still alive. And past that, my goal becomes all right, you're my commanding officer who saved my life. He gave his life to save me. I'm going to make you the best mech pilot you could possibly be, and I'm also going to stick you in the titular robot of the show that's the super best robot we've ever made, which is the Gunbuster. And that's the show, is this drama of this girl going through the tribulations of sort of trying to become a mech pilot, dealing with how hard that is. She also has to pilot it along with she has to co-pilot it along with another girl named Kazumi. And then they have to go through all the stuff of fighting aliens in space. It's really traumatic for her. At one point she even stumbles on her dead dad's ship, confirming that he is in fact dead. And it causes her to have a whole PTSD thing. A really interesting side thing about the show that they point out is that to travel in space, there's this thing called time dilation, where if something is moving at light speed, basically time starts sort of going around it, so it doesn't perceive time at the same rate. When she goes in space, she leaves behind her friend from school, and whenever she comes back to Earth finally to visit, it's been 20 years for her friend. It's been 3 months for her. It's been 20 years for her friend. Her friend already has a kid. So it's this whole messed up, you lose so much of your life doing this, and and my character is aware that he's dying, and he's trying to hide it, and because he's pushing these girl so hard. And he really, this is what matters the most to him, and it's incredible. It's an incredible series. You can see like all the sort of seeds for what will become Evangelion later. It's only 6 episodes, so it's a really quick watch. It's up on Crunchyroll now. You can buy it through physical, which I would recommend as well. But like, it's on Crunchyroll if you want to try it out. I love it. I strongly recommend it. I really, really do love it.
And correct me if I'm wrong. It was released in Japan on the 1988 or 1989, but it was released in the United States English dub in May of 2023 of this year.
Yep, that's right. It's only been a few months. It didn't get dubbed for like that long. We only cast it. I think it was like the beginning of 2022. We recorded at the beginning of 2022.
Now everything makes sense, because when you were talking about Studio Gainax, I think it's called a name, Dynax?
Yep, Gainax, yep.
Gainax. So the thing is, like, you were talking about that, you were talking about Neon Genesis Evangelion, and all these animes. I'm like, but these are really old anime, and you said this one was like the seeds for Neon Genesis, so it doesn't make sense. We're in 2023, so okay.
Yeah, they delayed the dub by a while.
Wow.
About almost
40 years.
33 years. Damn. Which that brings me some hope, because there's some series that I haven't watched yet because I'm waiting for the dub someday, hopefully. So maybe I have to wait 30 years.
Yeah. You don't want to wait 35 years. But I mean, like, Discotek will do that. They'll pick up like some old properties and like dub them. I know. Was it Maz and Kaiser? What was, I think, dubbed by them recently? Like they pick up a lot of older shows and either give them physical releases with no dub, which they sometimes do, but sometimes they'll dub them, and I do think that's really cool. And I felt so lucky to get to be part of this one.
I'm gonna say that confirms our theory of I'm one of the firm proponents of, I keep saying that we are currently living in the second anime renaissance. First being when we grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s was, I'm gonna say, like the first anime renaissance. And
Sure.
This was just like, it just took off, especially with the pandemic and everything, and the fact that I still say one of the big key players here is Netflix, because Netflix just made it so accessible for people, since almost everybody has Netflix, almost everybody pays for it anyway.
Exactly.
And just putting anime there, people started watching it, especially during the pandemic, and then they're like, okay, where can I watch more? And then here we go, let's find Funimation, and now it's Crunchyroll, and now we have High Dive too. So we got a lot of, and Hulu also. So now we got a lot of streaming services that are starting to, if they were already native, like for anime, we already have others who weren't native for anime, were other things, and now are bringing anime. And even Disney's like, okay, we gotta get in on this cash cow, because anime is getting to be like a big thing.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's impressive.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I agree with Karen on that part, because even the Funimation Crunchyroll is the lead in the United States right now in Crunchyroll in anime licensing.
Yep.
Crunchyroll as a platform, and High Dive, which is another platform in the United States, they are platform for anime fans, not to bring people not anime fans. However, when you have this general commercial platform, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, you name it, and they start bringing Amazon, they start bringing anime to the library, it's easier to turn non-believers to believer in anime, which is happening
absolutely.
a lot. Demon Slayer, and one of those series that turned non-believer to believer was My Hero Academia, which also have one of the characters over there with Hikage Shinomori, one of the former owners of One for All.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, that was hard to say. Even though I'm a big fan of this series, so that series, for those who haven't seen My Hero Academia, then how did you presume 6 seasons in 6 seasons or 5 seasons in a few seconds? How would you describe the series?
I mean, real quick, it's like superhero high school. It's a world full of superheroes and supervillains, and there's a school specifically for superheroes to do that. And unlike, I guess to clarify it versus like X-Men, this is a world where almost everyone has like superpowers. So like most people are basically mutants. And there's a bunch of conflicts that happen because of like, well, you know, if you have a power that like automatically kills a bunch of people, you might end up becoming like an outcast of society. So then that plays into how like a lot of the villains in the show aren't necessarily the worst people. They just ended up in bad circumstances that made them do bad things. And it's a show that sort of explores that idea along with the characters growing up to be superheroes that are more or less state sponsored. It's not like you're like a vigilante. Though there's a whole series about vigilantes. There's a whole separate manga about that. But like, no, you get like a state license to be a superhero, and it's about these kids that are trying to do that. And it follows the main character, Izuku Midoriya, who everybody calls Deku, and he is trying to become a superhero. Initially, he does not have powers, and then after the first episode, he is given the power of One for All, which is like an inherited superpower by All Might, who's considered like the Superman of their world. And it goes from there. You know, he tries to develop his power. They try to figure out, you know, being good superheroes, and they deal with supervillains that have a bunch of complicated stuff about them.
I gotta say, a little small parenthesis here is, unlike X-Men, where if you're a mutant, you're looked down upon. In My Hero Academia, it's completely different. If you don't have superpowers, you're looked down upon.
Yeah. You're considered
complete
a
opposite.
weirdo.
But I love. I think that briefing of resume of what My Hero Academia is was excellent, because you mentioned so many keywords like you have a dangerous power, society outcast you automatically, which My Hero Academia has so many heavy topics that kids will see this series and those topics he will not understand, and not because because of their capacity. They haven't lived enough to understand those heavy, dark topics in the society that are fantasy. Sometimes they're not really that fantasy.
Yeah.
But you have one of the genesis of this series, Hikage, when you had the first owner of One for All. For those obviously, the fourth.
Yes.
Oh yeah, my bad.
All good.
So,
I know there's like 7 of them or 8. I think Deku might be like the 9th, if I recall correctly.
So those who had no clue what the hell we're speaking about One for All, and those who are here it's a big mistake saying One for All for One is the same. Which I will leave that to you. What's the difference between All for One and One for All?
Okay, so to understand My Hero Academia, I said about how a lot of the villains are misunderstood. They play on the idea that some villains are just bad guys, and one of them is the main villain of the series, All for One, who is this guy who steals people's superpowers. For those of you familiar, he's sort of like, if people remember the show Heroes, he's like Sylar from Heroes, the serial killer who like kills people and takes their powers. He's kind of like that. And he's just this guy that wants to take over the world, basically. And his brother has like a really weak quirk. So All for One gives him, because he can take and give quirks. He primarily takes them. He gives him this like crappy little power, assuming it won't do anything. But the power, which is called One for All, can be passed on to other people, and then it sort of like develops and grows as it like goes from like host to host. So his brother then passes it on to basically like a military guy who's trying to like resist All for One, and then he passes it on to his lieutenant, and then that guy's lieutenant passes it on to me. And my character seemingly, because we don't get a ton in the show or the manga exactly about his backstory, but from what we can gather, he was a guy who grew up during this time where like All for One was like causing like, there used to be like all these wars and these like huge battles that would happen all over the place that would just disrupt everything. So I grew up in this like war-torn era of like All for One sort of ruining everything. So the minute that I was given the power, I was like, well, I'll take this and I'll develop it myself. Like I'll just train so that the power gets better, so I can pass on to someone who's more qualified. Because my guy's power, whereas other people had like other powers that were more suited for fighting, mine is basically the spider sense. He has danger sense, where it's just, I can sense when something bad's gonna happen to me. So he just runs into the woods and hides for like, I think he says he's there for like 20 years. He just tries to develop the power there, and then because it's so strong, he dies at the age of like 40 and passes it on to another dude. So that's the power of One for All, and then that gets passed on so many times until you hit the main character of the show, Izuku.
Definitely. And I always say My Hero Academia is one of those anime that have a very big cast. Like,
yes.
And because it's a big cast doesn't mean that anybody can apply for this position. Like, they have a very talented cast. Like, when you see the the never-ending lineup of voice actors, you can see that they're quality. It's not like anybody say, "Oh, I want a voice actor," and I'm in My Hero Academia already. No, nobody can make it there to that series. So, what would be one of your favorite moments that you can remember from My Hero Academia?
I mean, I'll say that, like, external to the show, I remember when I was in Pennsylvania and I was trying to save up, like, enough money to move, because I didn't have enough money at the time. I was working a really crappy job, like an hour outside of town for, like, criminally low pay for a company that no longer exists. Like, everybody was getting fired when I was working there. It was a bad scene, but I remember I'd drive home because a friend had recommended me the manga before the anime was even out, and I was such a fan. And I remember just on the way home, like, being like, I'm gonna blare the theme song and say to myself, I'm gonna be in this show someday. I promised myself. So external to that, the actual ability to be in the show was something that I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. As a fan, I mean, I love the fight. I mean, I love the fight with All Might and the Nomu at the end of the first season, where like, you know, it's the Nomus, by the way, are these big monsters that All for One makes, and All Might, who's the, like, Superman figure, fights it in this really, really cool fight of, like, it's just spectacular. It's a basic fight of, like, two dudes punching each other, but, like, it's drawn spectacularly. It's very fun. It's very exciting. And I just love that. For me as Hikage, the character, I mean, he doesn't. I only get so much time to shine because it's only a couple scenes, which I'm so grateful for. But, like, I have slim pickings in terms of what I can tell you. But I can tell you that the actual, like, ability to sit there and, like, I was in the booth and I was, like, talking. Sometimes, just to explain for people unfamiliar, whenever you record for anime, you're alone. It's you, the director, and the engineer. The rest of the cast are not there. Because the lip flap's already there. If you're trying to, like, bounce off of each other for timing, that's going to mess up all the lip flaps. It's not going to look right. So I was alone in the booth, and a lot of the time I'm like, if I record for something, sometimes none of the other characters are there. None of the other actors have recorded yet. So I'll listen to the Japanese, and then I'll go to record, and I have no one to play off of. I just have to imagine what they sound like. Getting to record for Hikage for his big scene where he talks to Deku, the main character, and is like, okay, look, this is how my quirk works. This is what happened. This is why it works like this. I need you to understand this about One for All. I got to hear Justin Briner as Deku in the booth there, and it was just so gratifying. And just getting to, go through that whole the fact that Hikage also gets to explain, like, his whole deal and go through the whole emotional, like, level of, like, you need to understand how important this is right now that you do this correctly, because otherwise this might kill you. So I love doing that. It was the coolest thing ever, and getting to be directed by, like, Colleen Klinkenbeard, who I'm, like, a longtime fan of. That's also, it's just incredible. The whole thing is incredible. I loved it.
Bradley, any word for those people who are considering joining the voice acting career or want to give a shot at it?
Sure. I would say try it would be my first thing. And by try it, I don't mean buy $1,000 microphone and, $5,000 worth of classes. When I say try it, I mean, like, just sit down and give it a try. Like, you see people doing, like, comic dubs online where they just take, like, a comic and then they put their voice over it and then they upload it. Give that a try, see how you feel. Try out, read some manga that you like and see if you can voice the characters yourselves, record it, see how you feel about it. If you have friends or other people that who are interested, post it, see how it is. There's whole communities, like, on Discord, like the Voice Acting Club, and other places where you can connect with other people that are interested. Gauge how much you want to be invested in this, because I do think there are various levels of investment in this. Like, if you want to just be a person that just does comic dubs and just, like, plays video games and, like, voices the characters, like, while you're playing, like, RPG Maker games, that's cool. That's awesome. You can do that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. I would say that, like, trying to do, like, this is like a job, requires so much more time and investment. And if that's what you really want to do, if you really want to voice in like official anime dubs, you're going to need to figure out being good enough to do that and also not starving to death while doing that. So I'd say, do your research. There's a book that you can buy called Voiceover, Voice Actor by Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt. It's like $20. It has a ton of advice on how to do just that. You can go for free to iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. It's written by D. Bradley Baker. He's been monster voices in like every single movie and every video game you've ever seen. I would say go to those resources first, see if that's, if you're thinking about doing this as a job, see what that recommends. And then if you have, I'll say if you have concerns about like, can I move to Dallas or LA, which are like the primary hub markets, you can also do, I'll just say this. You want to work for Crunchyroll, you move to Dallas. You want to work for Bang Zoom, which does a lot of the anime that's on like Netflix, you move to LA. If you want to work for High Dive, you move to Houston. If you want to do like Yu-Gi-Oh, you move to New York. Those are basically the ways that you do this. You can do remote stuff. That is possible. That's going to be tougher. I would recommend that you look into some of the stuff that Sarah Sakura has done. You can look her up online. She's done a ton of like remote directing, remote acting. She's a big advocate for it, as well as Christina Costello, who has also talked a lot about that. There's a bunch of people that will help you with resources there. I did remote for years. There wasn't that much before the pandemic, so I was limited in what I could do. Looking back, there may have been more that I probably could have done more, but as it is, I moved to a hub city and things seem to be going okay for me, and I'm reaching my goals as more quickly than I can ever hope. So that's worked for me. But I also would advise, temper expectations. I've been doing this since like 2011, and I'm only here doing podcasts, having people ask me about doing podcasts like 12 years later. So also understand that it's a marathon, not a race. So keep all that in mind. I wish you the best. I do think principally anyone should be able to do this with enough time and effort. And if you just want to make your own content, which I strongly, would advise to do, just give it a try. Like, even if it's just like, you can make like radio plays, you can read out like Shakespeare plays for free. There's a million books and other things that you can do for free to practice and just have fun with. I'd tell everyone they could do that. That's my advice.
Awesome, Bradley.
That is great advice, honestly. Like, so comprehensive.
I try to be comprehensive.
That's like for 101 before jumping into the journey. Like Absolutely. A real 101 class. Like I haven't heard this kind of advice in college before. Like, I mean, I hear it, but it's not very often where I hear advice like this at college. So Bradley, thank you so much. I really appreciate accepting your invitation and joining us tonight.
Of course.
For those who haven't followed you yet in social media, where can they follow you?
All right. You can find me on, I'm on Twitter, which I guess is now X.
On Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. Yeah, it's Twitter. Bradley Gareth. Just look it up on there. You'll find my name. Like, if you look up my name, you'll find it immediately. I'm at @anime_brother on there. Instagram, I'm at Bradley Gareth voice actor. Again, I think you should also be able to look up Bradley Gareth. I'm on like Threads, I'm on like Hive, I'm on like Blue Sky. All the like Twitter replacements. I have an account. I haven't used them yet because I'm like, the minute this blows up, I'm gonna figure out which one of these I'm gonna use. I don't know which one yet, but I'll be there. And then past that, I just made a TikTok. You should be able to look up Bradley Gareth on there, and it should come up, I think. But I barely posted there yet. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. Just the best place to find me probably for right now is Twitter.
Awesome. And like always, guys, easy for you guys. Just go down to the description. You're going to find Bradley, all links that he mentioned down in the description. Easy for you. Just click over there, go to his website, to webpage, to Twitter, any social media that are going to be listed down over there. Easy. Description, click, there you are. And for us, we humbly ask you for subscribe, like, and share in our YouTube channel. And you can follow us in our social media too, social media, such as Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. They're all different content, different kind of content, honestly, each of them. So you can have fun, but primarily YouTube, please. We appreciate you subscribe and like and share. So, Bradley, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you tonight.
Yeah, good talking to you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Sayonara.
Bye.
Goodbye.